Guess we're all set. Okay, let's open the meeting for the Fayston Selectboard for Tuesday, June 10th, 2025 at the Robert Vassar Town Hall. It's now 6 o'clock, and we have some guests tonight. Well, I'll go around the table. Chuck Martell, Chair of the Select Board. Matty Vassar is our Select Board Assistant and Town Clerk. Mike Jordan, Select Board Member. Ron Graves, Select Board Member. Langford Davidson, who's here as a member of the public. As a member of the public, okay, just to observe the meeting. Lauren Colich is here, and she's got a section on our agenda tonight. And Josh Livingston, our road foreman, is here. And I see somebody else coming in, Andrea. Hello, Andrea.
Yeah.
How are you? Andrew Henderson is joining us as well, so I'm sure you're here to talk about your candidate for the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, welcome. Welcome, everybody. So the first item on the agenda, we'll do a few administrative things. First of all, is we approve the select board minutes of May 27th, 2025. Did everyone have a chance to take a look at that? I did. Yep. Any comments, changes? Nothing? We have a motion to approve.
I make that motion.
Mike makes a motion.
Second.
Ron seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes are approved. And I will sign those. The 10th today, right? 6, 10, 5. Okay, thank you. Additions and deletions to the agenda. We have a couple of things we're gonna add, Maddie, right?
Yeah.
A discussion about a couple of violations, or at least one of the violations of our dog ordinance. And then we also talked at our last meeting about doing some research on what can be done for the trees that have fallen into the Shepherd's Brook after the storm last year. And we've got a little bit of an update on that, so we can add that under other business as well. And anything else, Ron or Mike, that you
Can get rid of number 7 too, because we ended up scheduling the review.
Okay, thank you, Maddie. Yeah, we're gonna talk about scheduling road crew yearly reviews. We've already done that. They're gonna be held tomorrow. It was properly warned in time, right, Maddie?
It was.
Thank you for doing that. So we'll delete that from tonight's agenda. And it looks like there are no other changes to the agenda then. So, first item, next item is public comments. Beyond what's on the agenda, anyone have any public comments thing? No? Okay. So moving on to number 4, Lauren Colich. Lauren is here to discuss situations with her culvert on Tucker Hill Road, and I won't say any more as part of the introduction. I'll let you discuss what.
Fascinating topic that I have.
Yes, and full disclosure, she and I had talked about this last week after we had a rain event just prior to that. And I told her that I thought it would be more appropriate for her to come to this meeting and discuss her situation and request with us. So that's why she's here tonight.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Chuck. And Josh and I had an opportunity to meet in person and look at things, so thanks for letting me talk to you. I'm here for a request. The request simply said is that I would like the town to cover the cost or activity of replacing my culvert and properly ditching, stone lining, sloping, and probably using a catch basin both at or around my culvert or above it. I'm willing to pay for it and indeed have already purchased the culvert to replace. So I'm not asking you to pay for that. But I'll tell you why I believe it is appropriate for the town to spend the time installing my new culvert. And I'll just go back. So I have a 24-inch culvert that I had to fight for. I had an 18-inch culvert. I wanted a 24-inch culvert when I built my road to Kingsbury in 1996. I was told it was too wide. In 2011, the first major event that took out part of Tucker Hill Road and my culvert occurred. And I again had an argument with your town road folks who wanted me to replace it with an 18-inch culvert, and I refused. Literally refused, and I put in my 24-inch culvert, which they thought was too large for the depth and deepness. I had had 2 engineers look at it, and it was clear to me that I wasn't going to yet again have my driveway intersecting with Tucker Hill Road eroded. And I wasn't willing to pay the expense when I could see the water coming down Tucker Hill far exceeded an 18-inch culvert. 24-inch culvert was put in by Freddie Viennes. It was put in with town oversight and approval. In other words, I coordinated with the town because I didn't want any argument about where it was placed. And since then, there have been several rain events that have done damage to my road at the intersection of McCall Drive and Tucker Hill. To be clear, I have a really well-built driveway. It's got grades that are at or around 15%. I have multiple culverts. I have stone line ditching. And there has never, to my knowledge, including most recently when I spoke with Josh and we looked together, been ever an issue of my drainage onto Tucker Hill Road. So we're clear on that. Everything's ditched and stone lined well. However, in the last 5 years alone, I have had 3 incidences that have cost me thousands of dollars because of town runoff and the failure to properly ditch and utilize stormwater control methods on Tucker Hill Road. That's only within the last 5 years. I think my expenditures exceed 10,000, but if they don't, they're very close. And that's because there have been failures on Tucker Hill Road in terms of the size of your culverts, the number of your culverts, the slopes of your ditches, which are 1-on-1 immediately above my driveway and have been for quite a bit of time, and the failure to use a number of other methods that would slow down water runoff. Most recently, the last incident occurred 2 weeks ago, Josh, about.
Yeah, 3.
3 weeks ago now.
And took out, as you know, a very large portion of Tucker Hill. It started pretty close above my driveway, jumped your 2 18-inch culverts, which were, no insult, please, I hope you don't take this personally, vastly undersized. Vastly undersized, with ditches that to this day are reading at a 1-on-1 slope. They are literally straight down, with, depending on where you are, about a 4-foot deep ditch. And this is not the first time. Before Josh, this is the first time I've talked to Josh, and so I want to be really clear about that. We had a very nice meeting, but before Josh, when Mr. Holstrom, right, Stuart Holstrom,
Yeah.
was the road foreman, I had a number of discussions with him on site and elsewhere. And to some degree, like Josh, he acknowledged to me that Tucker Hill culverts were either undersized or too infrequent or any number of other, acknowledgements, but it wasn't really dealt with. So without going into any blame, because I'm really not here to blame, I'm happy to buy the culvert, but now let me tell you why I want you to put it in. One, this is not a simple rain event. The idea of saying, well, we had a big rain event goes nowhere at this point. I think we all know that, right? We've had multiple major rain events, and this is not the first time I've talked to the town about it, meaning I had multiple meetings with Stuart. So, and even if I hadn't talked to the town's on notice, right? Everybody should have known that the ditching, the culverting, the failure to have good slopes, the failure to have check dams, etc., were missing on Tucker Hill Road. It's your obligation to know it. You should have known it. It's a no-brainer. Bring any engineer in, it'll take them 10 seconds to tell you that. You don't, I mean, we don't need to argue that, I hope. If you bring your own engineer in, I'm happy to have my engineer talk to them, but I don't think anybody's gonna argue that. So one is you're on notice. And for me to, for the 3rd time in a handful of years, spend thousands of dollars is unfair. I shouldn't have to do that. Not when I had the properly sized culvert when I asked to put in a larger one, it was denied in 2011. And when I have commented to the road foreman on multiple occasions that there are problems with the culverts and other types of drainage. Secondly, so that's my first reason. The second reason is that, if you look at Tucker Hill Road and then look at the standards that we're all, or the town, I should say, not we, but as a member of the town, the town is operating under, which I, by the way, did, with Stuart. I have both the 2013 and the 2019. I never spoke with Stuart about the 2019 town standards, but I did about the 2013 town standards. And I spoke with him about the state standards for municipalities. I think it would be fair to say that, that Tucker Hill Road above me, I'm not gonna speak below me because I haven't looked carefully, but above me, which is where the rain event began, met none of those standards, and I don't say that lightly. There are some discretionary standards, meaning that if you're under, say, a 5% grade, the question is whether you have to use, whether you should use stone ditching versus vegetation, et cetera. But the fact is, almost nowhere on Tucker Hill is less than 5% grade. First of all, how you determine your grade, of course, is determined upon the length of what you're measuring your grade at, and there's almost nothing on Tucker Hill that would meet that standard. But even if it did, this is the third time in 5 years that we've had these problems, right? So everybody knew that there wasn't sufficient ditching, culverting, et cetera. So the combination of being refused the ability to increase my culvert size. And by the way, I should say that Josh and I had a chat. I wanted to put in a 30-inch culvert now, and Josh asked me not to because it wouldn't.
You wouldn't get the coverage over it and where your driveway is.
So we'd have to redo a bunch of things. Tucker Hill Road has changed also in its height, so there's, you know, all those issues, which I'm not complaining about. I'm just saying, to be clear, I'm happy to spend the money to put in the largest culvert that would be reasonable. I'm happy with 24-inch and I ordered it, so I don't have a problem with that.
Is ledge the issue there, if you dig too deep?
No,
No.
the bottom of her culvert is at the ditch, the bottom of
Oh,
the
I
ditch.
see. Okay, yeah.
We would have to go deeper, therefore, to get the slopes of the ditch, we're gonna have to go wider. I can't go wider in towards the bank side because of the trees. I'd have to narrow the road or move the road the other way.
Mhm.
Which we discussed, and I'm happy to give up all of my trees.
Mhm.
I mean, no, it had, the road either had, well, I have my own opinion. But the fact is, as it exists now, there isn't a single state standard that is being met on the area of Tucker Hill above me, and I don't say that lightly. You know, you can't have vegetation on a one-on-one slope. You can have some vegetation if you're lucky enough that you don't have a rain event that grows within the season it grows, but we have rain events every year. So by having a one-on-one slope with a 4-foot ditch that's relatively narrow, it's like a waterfall at all times. The question is whether it's perennial or not. Do you have an opinion on that?
Above, from the culvert above your house down, I think it's just during rainstorms. It doesn't seem to be flowing water. The only time I saw water flowing, the last rainstorm we got, was a Saturday after I started putting the road back. Most of the water was coming down the edge of your driveway, not the ditch line.
Yeah,
What size culvert do you have in there now?
24.
24? And you're changing it because,
Well, it has to be moved. Right now, the way everything sits is not good. If I left it there, another rain event would take it out for sure. It would just get plugged. That's number one. Number two is it's got rot under, on the bottom.
okay.
I don't have to replace it. It's functioning, right? It's round, it's
That's
functioning,
okay.
but that's stupid, right? If we're gonna replace it, You couldn't, so here's thank you for reminding me, Ron. Here's the other reason that I think the town should replace it meaning simply install it. There are two other reasons. The other reason is, I don't believe you can repair the ditching on either side of my driveway properly without moving my culvert. In other words, without relaying it. We could argue that point, but you right now have eaten up my slope on my property to a one-on-one, which it never was. I had so much runoff that it went, whether you think it's 40 feet, 30 feet, 50 feet, I don't care, up my driveway. You've got to remove that silt because you're now silted up my ditches coming down. And on each side now, my culvert has been plugged so many times with rain events like this, that it's just not sitting well. It's just not. I looked at it with two experts. So in order, and you should, and I believe, although we may have a disagreement, that there should be some riprap or check dams put in either, above my culvert. And certainly there should be riprap above my culvert, because your slopes again are like this. You can't grow vegetation that will last in any rain event when you have a slope like this. We are so off the 2-on-1 standard that, you can't leave it that way. And so I think you have to remove it and replace it, as it were, anyway.
Lauren,
But there's one other reason.
Okay, I'm sorry, before
No.
you get to that though, there's just a point of clarification. So when you talk about that one-on-one slope, that's coming down the bank, that's not coming down the,
The Tucker Hill Road also, it's one-on-one, it goes like this, straight
The
down.
roadside and the bank
It
side.
goes
okay,
straight down.
both of them, yeah,
It's unbelievable.
okay.
And now that's come over on my property as well, which I want you to, you have to deal with it. What I'm saying is, you start dealing with that, you have to deal with my culvert anyway, you're gonna have to move it. And it's fair for me to pay to replace it, because as I just said to Ron, it's got some rot underneath. And even though it functions now, when you take it out, it's not gonna function, I don't think it's gonna stay intact well. So I'm happy to pay for a new one.
Mhm.
But the last reason I want you to put it in is this. I don't wanna be responsible. The last time that Freddie Viennes put in a culvert, we fought about, with Stuart Holstrom, about how high it should be. And when it was placed, Freddie didn't like the way Stuart insisted it be done. I have no opinion because I'm not an expert, but it was an issue. Now, I don't want to place it myself, because I know from engineers that I've spoken with, road engineers, that the ditching and the culverts up above me don't meet a standard that they find acceptable, and they don't think it meets the state standards. So what I would be doing is putting my culvert in, only to have another event that I would then potentially be accepting responsibility for. And what I'm saying to you now is, at some point, the town has to join in the responsibility of damage to landowner property and even culverts that are at the intersection of town roads. This is one of those times. I spent money and time and effort talking to the former town foreman about the problems on Tucker Hill Road and got nowhere. And what I don't want to do is in any way be accused of contributing to those problems, right? By not placing a culvert correctly. And I don't want to put a new culvert in myself, spending the money under circumstances where, in my understanding, the ditching and culverting above me is inadequate. So, for all of those reasons, I am here to ask you to visit the idea that under these particular circumstances, which I think are relatively rare, when I have complied with every standard and every request the town made, including the size culvert that I had before anyone else on Tucker Hill, as far as I know, because I fought over getting a bigger culvert. I really think you should put it in. I'll work with Josh. I'll have the new culvert there. I ordered the best I could find. I was lucky enough to have Josh nicely enough educate me and then educate myself a little more. So I'll have everything there, but what I don't wanna do is spend another $1,000 on gravel. And another $1,000 or $1,500 on a grader. And another $1,000 on an excavator to do what I have now done twice because of, in my opinion, insufficient town culvert and ditching. That I don't think is fair. So that's what I'm here to ask.
And I probably should have done this earlier, but to frame Lauren's whole discussion, I should have said that we have a town policy. But for those people who may be watching or others who may not know, that says that it is the responsibility of the landowner to maintain and install, maintain and replace their own culverts. And so Lauren is essentially asking for an exception to that policy. So, and her arguments that she presented are against that policy for that exception. So having said that, Josh, I had a question for you as well. So Lauren had mentioned something about the ditching that would have to take place on either side of a culvert. Can that be done without us putting the culvert in?
Yeah, I can ditch up through there without touching our culvert. I will have to narrow the road through that section of Tucker Hill. Which there is some leeway, I measured the road. To get an appropriate slope, it's the backside of that bank that I'm not gonna be able to change without disturbing those trees. And 2 of the trees there are on her property, the rest are on somebody else's property. Those trees do shed a lot of debris, leaves, sticks, twigs down that ditch line. That doesn't help water flow in any means. The next steep ditch above her place, I think the next culvert above your place is. I didn't measure it, but I wanna say 200 feet, maybe a little less, where those 2 cross the road. The water jumped those and came towards her property, but it also jumped 3 others above it. And the hill where it started was stone lined. And all that stone disappeared and washed in the culverts, plugged the culverts, and then domino effect down Tucker Hill. Until one finally did take it, which was a larger diameter, but it was a long distance. And there was 2 other driveways below her that had to change culvert. Well, one had to change a culvert, one had to reinstall a culvert. One other driveway washed out. That we threw some material back in to get them by. But yeah, to answer your question, I can re-slope the ditch on the roadside, the bank. I'll have to figure out the back bank towards private property that way. It is still in our right of way, so are the trees, but sometimes people don't want me taking trees and disturbing canopies and all that stuff.
But to Lauren's request, would it or would it not be easier for you to do that work if you were also in control of replacing?
That would not make a difference to me either way,
Okay,
ditching versus doing the whole thing straight through with the change of culvert.
okay.
Better head walls that are culvert would be a plus. To help collect. And stop erosion on the driveway side.
They were taken out by one of your rain events. That's why I'm saying the town should do it. I agree with you, by the way, the head walls were taken out and the head walls were taken out now twice by the town. Stormwater failures. And to Josh's statement, as I understand it, the two culverts right above me are 2 18-inch parallel culverts that were jumped. That's now being replaced with a 36-inch culvert, which I don't know the math well enough. I'd have to actually figure out diameter and flow, but I bet that 36-inch is something like 5 times the amount of flow as 2 18-inch, something like that. I mean, that's my point, right? My point is, I agree with you, by the way. I don't wanna put another head wall in.
Hmm.
I've done it twice in 5 years. My rocks have disappeared. They literally go like this because the water from the town and the failure to properly cover the ditch has taken them out. I'll supply the rocks though. Remember, I did offer, no, I offered
I'd
that.
use, if it was me, I'd use concrete waste blocks.
Yeah.
And the reason being is when we do dig out driveway culverts, the inlet and outlet to make sure flow is good when we're in the area. We don't make special trips to do it, but when we're going by and we see one that needs to be dug out, we try to get it dug out. Rocks just catch the bucket and then they're easy to screw up and move out of place and cause more erosion. The concrete blocks are significantly bigger, thicker, and a lot harder to move.
You haven't seen my rocks.
I
Remember, I had a
Well,
lot. I had a lot of
I know you have a lot of plans out there.
What kind of concrete blocks?
They're waste blocks,
What's the size?
3 foot by 6 foot, 18 inches thick.
So I'll commit myself to getting those. If you put in my culvert and you put it in well, and you put it in the way it should be put in. And you ditch around it and you fix up my driveway in that area where it's now silted in. And you do and you do some other remedial measures, not the least of which is getting something to control the straight down banks. Again, I'm not trying not to do my share, but I had some very large headwall rocks. I mean, like, that, you know, enormous.
Yeah.
My telescopic forklift had to lift it.
Yeah. Okay. Ron and Mike, any questions you have or? What would you like to do as next steps? You make a decision right now, you might want to do more research on
Site visit.
Yeah,
site visit,
think so.
that kind of thing.
that's what.
It's good to see it.
The
I mean,
appropriate
I've
next
been up,
step, you
I've been
think?
up there, but I wouldn't say
yeah,
specifically
I've
looking
driven by a
at the
couple-
road more than anything.
Yeah,
But I have to agree. Our ditches are deep. And the water gets roaring through. I've checked it out, wider is better, but again, like Josh says, you cut back in people's trees, roads are narrower, not so bad.
I mean, Northfield went through with a feller buncher, laid the trees down in the whole entire right of way of their roads.
So, but I am saying, our ditches, the deeper they are, the faster the water goes.
mhm.
There's no question about it.
Yep.
And I
That's
look
what
at a
we
lot of the, I'd like to see what a standard ditch would look like, from the state, because I have a feeling that it's wider and shallower. And has the same amount of volume. So, those
well-
water down,
Mhm.
Have you seen the better, I'm serious about this, I'm happy to leave it with.
but I'm not judging whether we should change,
Yeah, yeah.
change the culvert, it's
Mhm.
one of my
I
comments
understand.
that I think.
But here it is, by the way.
How many readers?
This is the,
Freeland.
yeah, you can keep it,
That's what I
can
that's
print
what
it out.
I emailed that.
Better back
Oh,
row.
this is
Yeah.
one,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah,
so I have.
You have it.
yeah,
I didn't have time to read them.
It'll show you, I mean, it'll actually give you some pictures of it.
yeah. Maddie sent that up to us, so
Oh, awesome.
we all have a copy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm happy to, I told Josh, anything I can do to facilitate better ditching and better culverting on Tucker Hill, I'm happy to do, and I'm certainly willing to take trees. I'm not obstructionist at all. I'll do whatever, I'll even I told Josh, we'll take the trees down for him.
Would you like to
something's got-
set up a time for a site visit now? You get your calendars, or you wanna take a look and try to get us all together via email?
Yep, it probably rotates around you when you're in town.
Yeah, and I can always just go up there.
Yeah,
I
Go up
I'd
and
like to
then-
go with Josh.
Yeah, that's what I was
I
thinking
mean,
too, and
I
maybe
mean-
have Lauren there with us if possible, and
Okay.
just,
She would love that.
But, I think, I tell you, I don't mind going, we wanna do it during the day for Josh's.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I have, and I'd like to do it during the day because I have family here all the time.
Okay,
And I don't, I'd like not to do it after work.
I'll hear that.
It's gonna be sunny the next 3 days.
Okay, Josh will probably take a vacation, go boating.
No, because then it'll flood.
Yeah, he's not allowed to leave town anymore.
So would you like to get back to Matty with some dates that
Yeah.
may look good for you, and then we'll try to all
I
jump
can
in.
tell you right now, I can't do Tuesday. I can probably make most any other day work. I can just readjust.
We could go early.
What?
I could go early. Like 7.
Yeah, whenever.
Oh, I'm up already.
Yeah.
We're texting partners pre-8.
Be 7 in the morning?
Yeah.
I don't mind, I mean, we get guys out the door by 7:30, but I would do 7 to make it work for everybody.
Yeah, I'd do the same if we had to
Right.
show.
Yeah.
What day are you thinking? Next week,
Not-
right?
Not Tuesday.
Want to do Monday?
Monday?
Monday the 16th, 7 AM?
Mondays are almost as bad, but yes,
Well, we could do Wednesday. if you-
Wednesday would be better.
Yeah, I have
On Mondays,
a
like,
mechanic coming up
Josh,
there.
Josh,
Monday.
get guys out the door.
All
I
right,
can get them, they're fine.
Now, you even wanna do like this week when it's nice and sunny?
no, we want to see it as worse.
Next
Next 5 inches of rain.
next week is nice.
Okay, I know, seriously, but
What's
that's
that?
Next week is
so
nice.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
So Wednesday at 7, is that what we're thinking?
18th, Wednesday, the 18th at 7.
Thank you for hearing me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for sharing your thoughts on that too.
Josh, you're good with that?
Yep,
Okay.
okay, well, Lauren, thank you, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for hearing.
Okay,
Thank you.
we're gonna move right into the road foreman report.
I'm staying for that. I absolutely insist.
So we finished up the North Fayston re-gravel with the new material.
That's looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's packed down really good.
It's packing down, we're gonna regrade it. That material, when you first lay it down and try to spread it out,
Greasy.
it's, kind of spongy. It's a hard time getting all the bumps out with the grader.
Yeah,
So we found that if you grade it and just let it pack and then regrade it, you can kind of get everything out of it. Then we'll chloride it, let it pack again. I'd love to roll it, but I didn't rent one, so
okay. Will that help with the dust on North Facein
the
Road?
chloride will help.
Yeah.
Okay, with the chloride, yeah.
It is dusty, right? But, and it's also greasy right in the beginning, wet.
Yeah, but it's not slippery. It looks greasy, but it's
Yeah.
not slippery, not like it was. The 2 inches of the material I took
took
off
out
it
were
before.
pretty
Yeah,
bad,
well,
yeah.
that's dangerous.
So silky stuff, oh yes.
I think this is gonna work out great. We have it on 2 of the other roads that are hills and it's holding well. But that's done.
Good.
Holstrom excavation moved on to Dunbar Hill. They are shaping up the ditches. Material that's coming out, I put trucks on to haul to get rid of. I have to bring in some bonier material that's not soup and try to pack it back in some of those voids to sure that up, and then that'll get stone lined over with larger diameter stone. That's
And that's on us.
that, bringing in that material and the trucking, for anything coming in other than stone. And coming out of the ditch, I supply the
But
truck.
he performs the.
He has the machine, he's
Okay.
performing the work,
Gotcha.
just the the trucks for that
Yep.
portion of it we are covering. Um. If we didn't bring in other material, we would have to fill that void with stone. And that would cost a lot more money and it's not necessary. The. The farthest portion of that first ditch going up the hill is quite a ways back. We're getting it as uniformed as we can. Without stepping out of the right of way. I know it eroded farther in out of our right of way. And we're trying to shore that up within reason without taking, I mean, if we were to do a straight line, it'd be like 20 more trees that have to come out of there. Which we can't do. FEMA made that clear, so. It'll be as straight as we can get it,
Can't cut down any trees right now.
yes, I'm aware,
Bat season,
FEMA?
it's bat season, no cutting
Oh.
trees.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I have an mechanic coming hopefully Monday, he's just on vacation, and they're changing a piston on our excavator. And gonna check some pressures. The thumb isn't relieving properly, so hopefully I can get that covered by them somehow, I'm gonna try. It's seems to be lacking in hydraulic power for other functions. I don't know if that has anything to do with it getting rolled over during the flood. I think there was a notation made by John Deere. And allotted us a certain amount of hours that hopefully we can reopen that case and take it up with our insurance company if it is a pump, because. They're tens of thousands of dollars. So we'll figure that out hopefully Monday. I have 2 loads of culverts coming this week for Tucker Hill, the majority of them are for Tucker Hill. Tomorrow's one and Thursday, and I'll get those. Moved over to Tucker Hill, and hopefully next week we'll start changing it. And there's. 6 or 7, I think 6 now, I changed one, I emptied one. So I think it's 6 left to change. So there will be delays. Usually about the time I get the road fully dug up, it'll be about an hour before I can get the lane back open. As long as we don't run into any foreseen circumstances.
We'll get a notice out about that.
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
That's where I'm at now.
Hey,
It's
got a
just gonna
question.
be tricky because it's 6 culverts, so
Yeah.
Would like to follow up on.
everyone's gonna have to expect.
Yeah.
Isn't there an issue with the?
I called International directly and. They basically gave me a runaround and was like, well, I don't know why the dealer didn't do that, we'll check into it, here's the case number, call us back if you don't hear anything, so.
So it's a start.
It's a start,
Hmm.
I might have to have Lauren call
All right, any other questions for Josh?
No.
him. No.
And the issue is too, that, we've already pretty much eaten up our entire culvert budget for the year with
Oh,
what's
yeah.
been happening, and if we have to wind up paying for this excavator repair, that's gonna eat up most of our repair budget for this year already, so. It'd be nice if you can pull that off, and
I'll do my best.
yes, I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Okay, any other questions? I know you've been up since 5 o'clock this morning or something. If you want to get out of here, feel free. I don't know that we've got anything else that,
No, I think that covers it.
The road crew list, to-do list,
Yeah,
we haven't.
he had, yeah, but. If we can go over it with him, or you guys can look at it, or I can email it again.
I can
It's-
just email
yeah, why don't you?
Yeah, I need to go
email
over
it,
it.
We'll take a look at
it. I'd like
it.
to see it, yeah.
Yeah, that way you can get out of here. I think the important stuff we've covered.
All right,
Thank you.
have a good night.
All right.
Bye, Josh.
Good job.
All right, next item is the Vermont Alert Adoption Form. So this allows us to get on the Vermont alert system to let folks know about road closures and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Do you all have a chance to take a look at this and?
I saw when it was going around, yeah, for the town of Warren did that, right?
Yeah,
We
Yes.
talked about doing, so I did.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I reached out to them just to see like, how do you set it up? And they're like, yeah, your select board has to sign this and then, we can report.
So honestly, putting that on there about Tucker Hill
Yeah,
could be
Yeah.
important, right? I mean, it's gonna be virtually, it's gonna be
yeah,
closed
yeah,
here and there, so it's like.
yeah. I mean, it's the same kind of thing like our email. If people aren't signed up for it, you're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
But if we can put it like on the email to have people signing up for it, it's just another,
I think that alert there,
that
though,
would
is
be a great
things
idea,
like
you gotta add that.
FedEx and UPS and truck. those
Right, I
people
think-
Use that to know what
Yeah.
roads are closed.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great to either.
and I also think it like for fire and ambulance and stuff.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Okay, so y'all good with me signing it for the select board? All right, so that is done. Thank you, Matty. All right, next item, appoint Kimberly Phelan to the Fayston Conservation Commission, and I see Kimberly is on Zoom, has joined us for a while now. And Andrea, you're here to represent her, so maybe you'd like to talk about why you nominated her, or how would you like to do that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're thrilled that Tim has an interest, and the time. So I met Kim through her husband, Andy, who's involved with Mad River Valley Bear Initiative. They're both wonderful people. Kim has retired recently, as a teacher, history and civics. And also curriculum later. She has, and we've shared, her note with you, but just, so everybody can know. She's served in a lot of different capacities, over the years in volunteer organizations, in historical societies, library board, school committee, Girl Scout, Boy Scout leader, and maybe, very importantly, as a military personnel officer. So with all of this experience, including grant writing, and, an avid interest in the outdoors and gardening and conservation, I think Kim has made an amazing addition to the Fayston Conservation Commission, and we fully support her appointment.
Excellent. And I see, she's gonna be splitting time between here and,
Rockport,
yeah, Rockport, and,
Is that right?
but
yes,
can zoom into your meetings if needed and that kind of thing, so that sounds, you all feel comfortable with.
we're totally comfortable with
Yeah.
that. And she's on Zoom today, she's recovering from ankle surgery.
All right. Kim, you got anything you'd like to add to that?
Thank you, Andrea. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Thank you, Andrea, for that. I would be very happy to get involved more in the Mad River Valley, and that I'm excited about the potential to do this. I am sorry to be recovering from surgery here and just not getting around very well yet. But we've been up in the Mad River Valley for 20 years now, and we really enjoy all it has to offer and want to make sure we're doing our part to help out where we can.
excellent, okay. So the Conservation Commission has officially nominated Kim for the position, and it's up to us to approve that. So do we have a motion to do that?
Make a motion to appoint Kim Phelan.
All right, Mike, and second,
I'll
Ron?
second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, none opposed. All right, well, Kim, thank you for volunteering and welcome aboard. I'm sure you're gonna enjoy this. Andrea is somewhat of a slave driver, but
We'll get a contract right
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Looking forward to that, not we.
Not we, I was just gonna say, and the bear in the.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you, Andrew, for
Thank
coming,
you.
and Kim, thank you
Thanks, Andrew.
for joining and
See ya.
welcome
Thank
aboard.
you.
All right. All right, next item is the fuel and propane price protection plans that we, if we decide to need to sign.
So the blue copy is this year, the white is last year. I don't know if you guys figured that out.
Oh, yeah, well, I was a little confused in the
I was
beginning.
confused by, Sarah wrote 2025 on there and I don't know what she did, but this
Oh.
is from 2024.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
So I got a question. So why would the state, and I believe the state allowed municipalities to use off-road diesel if there wasn't a savings? And I know Josh said that could be a problem with warranties and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But why would the state allow that if there wasn't an advantage?
so it was weird because I reached out to Gillespie's about this and they sent back a price and they're like, it's the same as what you're getting for diesel right now. And then I was like, I literally wrote them back. I said, why would we switch over
Off-road.
to off-road if it's gonna be the same cost? And I haven't heard back from her yet. She tried to call, but I was gonna,
I'm just
Zoom
curious,
thing.
because why would they say something like that if we're not paying that tax anyway,
cause yeah.
you know?
And Josh was saying, I asked Josh and, cause I guess in the past, maybe Gillespie's had reached out to Stuart and he was like, no. And so I reached out to Josh and was like, are you against it? And he was like, the only thing I'd worry about is warranties on the trucks. And so if we do want to go forward with the diesel part of it, we'd obviously wanna check in on
Just
warranties.
curiosity.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what I wrote back in an email to Amy today, was like, why would we switch? If it's the same price, like maybe it's a locked in, cause Sarah looked back and we pay different, for diesel, this is propane.
You probably buy off-road,
Yeah,
no?
I do, but I don't run it, some stuff. The
So
newer
we have,
stuff I
we have an
don't.
excavator, we buy out.
Yeah. So the drill rigs I'm off-roading, but like my main loader, I don't.
No, cause it's good registered.
No, I just think the extra dies.
Yeah.
You change the filters more frequently, stuff like that.
Hmm.
But if it's the same price, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Right, why would we? I didn't know.
I'm not a municipality.
I'm actually, I actually don't really care one way or the other, but it's just a curiosity, why would it be
Yeah.
such a big deal? If it doesn't make a difference?
And that's exactly what I asked Amy today, so
Okay.
when I find out, I'll
Alright.
let you know.
but these two are for the propane
Correct,
and one for the garage, one for the municipal building.
correct.
And you're recommending that which are the plans, monthly budget?
Yeah, I don't really know, I guess, I don't know, this is last year's, this is what. we-
Okay,
And then we,
oh, here we go.
Is it too late to add something to other business?
What's that?
Is it too late to add something to other business? The town garage,
Oh,
I
I
have
don't
an
see,
update,
yeah,
so I just thought of it. So.
yep, yep. So what did we do this past year, Matty? Which of these options did we used option one,
yes,
the 12-month cap budget plan with upside and downside price protection? That's what we are on currently.
Yep.
So that's something we should probably continue, that same plan, yeah, all
it
right,
looks like for the garage and for here, we did
okay.
the same.
So is that a yes? I should sign the contract
Yeah.
for the
Agreed.
garage and for here for both of these?
Agreed, yep.
Okay. On the backside.
Yeah,
Customer signature, that would be me. I am now officially their customer.
I guess so,
You can
just
send-
maybe check that box.
Oh, yeah, thank you. 6/10/25, you are becoming radar, you know.
Trying my best, she's watching, you know.
And here's the second one. So we all set with Gillespie.
Awesome.
Liquor license and catering permits, we need to give you permission to sign, and these are all for Sugar Bush, right?
Yes, and they're all just,
Different dates.
yep, but just requests for catering permits, so it's
Yeah.
the June
Right.
24th, July 1st, July 8th, July 15th.
Okay, I'd make a motion that we give Maddie, permission to sign those. Second,
Second.
Ron, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, you now officially have permission.
Perfect. And then
Excess weight permits, we only had one, Chris Griffin.
just one,
Okay, I'll sign that. All right, that is signed, excess weight for Griffin and Griffin. Okay, select board to-do list. I don't know if we want to get into detail on that. I asked Maddie just to put it on the agenda each meeting, just so we look at it, and if there's anything on there that you'd like to discuss, we can discuss it. I don't think we need to go through it every meeting.
I'll email it too, I forgot to put both of those in the packet.
Yeah, yeah, so that's the reason that's on there. So I don't know if you, anything on there you want to bring up. I know the town garage is probably on there, so we're gonna talk about that next anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's move on to other business and talk about the town garage.
So, I had my roofer go look at it, because Josh says that, leaves blow in and stuff like that, and I'm sure that we're not gonna go foam in there, and he goes, there's I found something else out too, we have two buildings there, right?
Yeah.
They're not connected,
Right.
really, they're just, the
adjacent
roof
to
is
each other.
flashed together.
Yeah.
And so he said they're flashing, or it's a big sheet, it comes down the roof probably 2 feet, maybe more, and up and under the other one. And it's in good shape, but it's rusty, but he says stuff, the wind it kind of flops. And so we're okay, he said just throw some foam in there. And foam it up, and which I think we could do, and then I can get my foam guy to come to the rest. So that's part of the roof thing that we're talking about, trying to tighten up the place, right? And the jam to the door, I can't get anyone to bite on that, but my steel guy that we use a lot, Bauer Fabrication, is willing to come look at it, and they can probably fix it. So I've got an appointment with him, I thought it was gonna be this week, I hope it's this week, to go look at it. And once we get it fixed, Limoges will adjust the door so it works properly and.
Right.
And then I think we're not quite ready to move on the back door, maybe we are, I don't know. But I also was told by a steel guy that we just can't add on to our building another bent, because that building probably isn't engineered to today's standards. So you'd have to do the same thing that we did this other roof that where we flashed it up and under. We could make the building shorter or taller
I'm just gonna.
and flash it up against it, and it would be independent. And maybe, and we're not ready to move on this for a while, I don't think, but I could get some proposals. Maybe we could be tall enough where they could put the dump body up,
Yeah,
because right now.
just have one day that you can do that.
Right, I don't know, I'm just toying around with things, but I think we're on the right track, It'd allow us to pour a new slab, the frost wall separate, and put radiant heat in it and work toward the end.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, I we'd have to figure out if we're throwing money away or if we're not,
Yeah, cause if there was one
I really-
independent bay, it'd be cheap to heat. You know?
And I tell you, I've looked at that steel building, it's in. The
The
steel's in
building
good
itself,
shape, it's in good shape,
Mhm.
no doubt about it.
If we
It
have,
really lacks in the insulation, for sure,
yeah, yeah,
for sure.
it'd be ideal if we had more room, but I mean, Josh seems to think that he could get by for now,
20 feet, I don't know what, we'll see.
yeah. Should we put that on, just to have on our radar? We get town garage maintenance, but this goes beyond that, it's really looking at an
Yeah.
expansion, right? A
Right.
small expansion?
And I think, we can get around the building. Because we already have something on there that's 20 feet,
Mhm.
the old wood shed, which it's only filled with tires, we ought to just clean that up.
Yeah.
Short term anyway, trees are growing back there.
Mhm.
Well,
Okay, we'll put it on there.
See, I
just-
think the things that we're doing now kind of need to be done.
Yes.
Even if we did a new town garage, which I don't really see in the near future, still reuse the door.
Yeah.
A new overhead door,
Mhm,
there's nothing wrong with that.
mhm. Okay, well, thank you for doing that research. And yeah, if that framing in that door could show it up there so that they,
Right, and I think we gotta replace the man door, it's just all rusted down
mm,
below, probably, you know. It's not weather tight, it's,
mhm. Okay,
I mean, the heat is, how much we spend on heat there?
oh my God, how many gallons was that?
Yeah.
And forget, but it was a lot, 3,800.
That's why ideally radiant would be good, you know, it comes up
Yeah.
here, shuts off, keeps the. It's warm.
Well, it's great for that too, because you
What?
melt all the snow and stuff like that.
Yeah, 3,533 gallons of propane.
Yeah,
If you just
Or-
cut it down by 10%, how much is it a gallon?
I know. I know,
What it was 140 last year, so it's going to be. Yeah, 147 per gallon.
yeah,
$500, you know, I mean.
Yeah.
Here and there, yeah.
yeah,
We'll buy a couple of windows, you know, we got plexiglass in right now.
I know.
So anyway,
All right, thank you. The next, we have our choice, we can talk about dog stuff or Shepherd's Brook, let's talk about dog stuff.
Right.
So Maddie was you're looking for some direction from us, right, as to, you sent notices out to these folks and they haven't
We
responded.
received one back and they responded.
Right, but the other one
Yeah, and no,
haven't licensed the dog, and it's still roaming on other people's, their neighbor's
Yeah.
property. And,
and he's very mad.
what's that?
And he's very mad,
And he's-
like he's,
The neighbor,
yeah,
yes,
and I think.
and I
it's-
think he's kind of seconds away from the next
Well,
step himself.
I think it's, you know. To not respond to a town letter. It's not a good thing,
mhm,
it's just not. You know, somehow we have maybe ask Jeremiah to go,
That's what I was saying is maybe if Jeremiah can go. Another time. To just kind of. Feel it out and then. Cause I mean, if they didn't respond to this letter to pay the $13, the next step is to find them $100, I don't think, like,
right,
mhm.
then it becomes more and more, but. A lot more,
but we, you know, that's fine, you know, but we need to solve it really.
right,
Mm,
and that's the thing, is I don't know,
Bottom
right,
line,
the $13 or even the $100. Is not gonna solve the
So-
dog going on other people's
Right.
property.
Mhm.
The dog goes away. You know,
Yeah,
if they don't wanna respond, they don't wanna pay the fines, then that's.
yeah, so maybe have Jeremiah reach out first
Mhm.
and then,
I think so.
See what the outcome is of that.
okay,
Do we, I don't recall now, do we have a list of what the fines are in our policy or is
I think, it's-
after?
yeah, I think,
Yeah,
I think
you
this,
sent that,
yeah, in the dog ordinance, it's, yeah, I don't honestly know, but I think it
Okay.
can be,
50, 100.
yeah, 25, 50, 100 or something.
Yeah,
There you go.
okay. I'm just thinking of what Waitsfield went through there a year or so
Yeah.
ago with theirs, I mean, they actually had the folks come in and. I don't know if we could get them to a meeting, I mean, I think Jeremiah is a good first step, but then I'm just trying to think.
and then they made them get rid of the dogs. And then-
Yes.
And then they came back.
Yes, yeah,
Oh, yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
know about that, but yeah, okay.
yeah, so maybe. Let's start with Jeremiah and
Okay,
hope
and I
that,
know he's been there once, but
I
Yeah.
think, you know, seems like it's our responsibility
Mhm.
to do
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
We have a dog ordinance,
yeah, absolutely.
okay.
All right, we all good with that?
Yeah.
All right, final item, Shepherd's Brook, so.
We'll turn to our tree warden.
I never thought, I never thought of that.
I'm not the tree warden.
well, Mark.
Oh,
You
anyway,
know,
just,
I had somebody stop me and I mentioned, about, well, we're talking about the trees in the river and person said, I think we should just leave them there. I think they're not a problem. And it's somebody who's pretty savvy, I would say.
Yeah,
So it's interesting to hear you say that they create like, barriers and they actually slow the water down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I was with the Vermont State Forester the other day on a logging job and brought up this question to him. And that was exactly what he said. He was like, I would leave them right there unless there's some imminent hazard,
Like a bridge or.
like a
culvert
bridge
or-
or culvert that's just downgrading of them. He goes, and in that case, I would get in and cut it up, so it just goes.
I mean, how is that bridge not, like, they're all gonna come to that bridge?
Well, I don't think what he's saying is they're not gonna move, they're gonna go into the gravel. And if the river will tear and, you know,
mhm.
so. I mean, I'm sure there's some that should probably come out, but. You know, the thought of, you know, he was like getting a piece of equipment in there, because you're gonna have all kinds of
That's
problems.
Yeah.
gonna be the other thing,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of places, right? We never get.
And just so folks know as well, that Maddie started the ball rolling. We had asked her to follow up and see if whose responsibility it would be and what we should be doing, and somebody from Agency of Natural Resources get back to you. And essentially said the same thing. If we wanted to set up a policy for removing them, which would have to be A&R approved, we could do that. But the recommendation was leave them where they are, and essentially that's what you both are hearing. From your sources
Yeah.
too, so I don't know
That-
what
that's-
further we can do
Yeah,
or
I
should
think
do, or.
we've addressed it, and if we're comfortable just leaving it as it is. Right, we've had good information,
Mhm.
we've checked it out.
You know, you might wanna look at. The area up gradient of Randall. And airport, because both of like the one on
I
the
mean, from the-
airport
from the bridge.
slid again.
Mm,
So we should probably assess that in some way, shape or form.
mhm,
I mean, just before the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
Because
There's not
it's,
much just north of the Randall Bridge, because I walked that yesterday, but, I mean, after that bridge washed out, there was 15, 20 trees stacked on that bridge that caused it to fail the first time.
mhm,
And if you look at the turn just before that, there's probably 10 trees stacked right into the bank that were put there during that. If we do replace the bridge and then those trees break free, that's gonna dam that up again and blow out both the abutments.
that's a tough, I mean, it's funny, that bridge is tough in other ways too, because. I did the drilling there for the design. And it's interesting is, you know, the airport bridge. It's till at 6 feet. That bridge, we went down 50 and we're in fine sands.
really,
So that whole area was in bayed at one point and settling out, you know, it was a glacial lake. So I mean, that stuff's not gonna be stable. No matter what we do.
mhm,
So it's a tough, you know,
I
put
know,
a drawbridge in.
I
I
know,
mean, I'm
The
hoping
trees
about
by.
this bridge right here, because there's way more trees across the Shepherd Brook upstream of this bridge, which somehow miraculously made.
This one right here.
This one
Yeah,
right
oh,
here.
yeah,
The one we want to get knocked out doesn't get knocked out.
I mean, there's one spot where there's literally 4 trees all laying across.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if that's where, there's far more trees downstream from Randall. I mean, that, if that bridge goes on North Facein, like, that's. a
but I
problem.
think from what
Yes.
you're saying, those trees upstream, so far upstream are probably helping.
yeah,
And then like that house where they have all the firewood on the lawn, I mean, there's that island where there's all those trees wrapped around there.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that's where it really like widens out, and that's where,
well, and it's widening more so, cause you go by the camp,
yeah,
and on the far side, that
It's
bank, it's
falling
just falling in.
yeah.
And there's big stuff that's coming out of that, you know. That's
Yeah, I
all
mean, it's,
loose.
it washed that house, I mean, just downstream of Randall, it washed, it probably moved 35 feet that way.
Yeah.
It's quite insane, I mean, these trees on Shepherd Brook are a concern of mine.
Yeah.
But the fishermen say that you get more brook trout because the shade and the birds can't get to them, but if we lose that bridge, that's gonna be an expensive. property.
Yep,
Yeah, and that's been on our list of stuff we send to the state every year. to try to get this prioritized as a replacement.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, part of A&R's response to us was, well, size your culverts and bridges appropriately to allow for, you know, the
Trees to go
buildup of
through?
trees coming downstream.
So while we're talking about bridges, is there a plan for the railroad bridge and the airport bridge, or do we know what's happening there?
Well, they'll be upgraded to permanent bridges, and we're working now to get an RFP out for engineering design for those two bridges, so for permanent structures, so.
Yeah, we got it back, but we had to send it over to A&R to make sure they are
Yeah.
happy with it before we send it to you guys. That's
Yeah.
what FEMA told us to do. So we just got it last night.
Oh, okay, so yeah,
Sarah was sending it to him today.
that's where that's at. Okay, well, we've done our research.
Yeah.
The
Stand
experts
back.
just telling us, let it be. So we've done the dog stuff, the Shepherd's Brook stuff, the town garage stuff, and I think we can read the mail and sign the warrant, and we'll be good.
It's having a readers.
Five? You gonna help?
No, I don't. I can read most of it. Boy, it's pretty short.
Well, last time it was really big because of the.
Yeah.
Is
State
this your
payment.
copy, or can I keep that?
You can totally keep that.
Okay, thank you. And everything signed that need to be signed?
Everything fine that needs to be signed.
All right. Did have a major rain event tonight, so that's a good thing.
That's bad.
The night's still young.
You optimist, you.
I don't trust the weather at all at this point.
Did you get your reflective vest yet?
No, I need to get it. I
You
need
didn't
to
talk,
that,
talk to Josh about
I
that.
know. Maybe he'll get it for me for Christmas.
That's nice of him.
Patty always wanted to ride the dump truck, but you're to drive the dump truck, so I think her request is a lot more reasonable, you know?
A lot
Jared
safer,
went and told Josh that I should get my CDL,
a lot,
so.
a lot safer too.
Mostly payroll,
Mhm.
Benefits.
All right, warrant is signed. Need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
I.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Aye.